The Philadelphia Museum of Art was established in 1876 as the Pennsylvania Museum of School of Industrial Art for the Centennial Exposition in Philadelphia. The main building was designed by the architecture firms Horace Trumbauer and Sanzinger Boris Medieri and was completed in 1928. It changed its name to Philadelphia Museum of Art in 1964 and rebranded it in 2025 to Philadelphia Art Museum with a new Griffin logo, but then rebranded back to its former name in 2026. The museum's collection includes over 240,000 objects of European, American, and Asian origin, and today gets almost 1 million visitors a year. General admission is $30 for adults, $28 for seniors, and $14 for students. Every first Sunday of the month is pay as you wish. American art has been at the heart of the museum's collection since its founding in 1876. These galleries showcase paintings and sculptures made by artists born or residing in the United States or by American-born artists working around the world from the 1600s to the 1960s. This sculpture was originally carved in wood for a fountain at Central Square in Philadelphia, where City Hall is located today. Many artists from the United States were drawn to London to study art, and Benjamin West was one of them, whom Ben Franklin once called the best history painter. Earl, who was a British loyalist who fled to the United States during the Revolutionary War, parodied the conventional portrait of the upper class with death-capped mushrooms. Burlington was 13 years old when he painted this overmantel decoration for John Cannon, a successful merchant who ran vessels between New York and the Caribbean. Sully painted the famous military engineer and first superintendent of West Point Academy after the colonel retired from the Army and lived in Philadelphia. The artistic dynasty of the Peale family is well represented in the museum by 15 of its members that span 4 generations. The patriarch of the family, Charles Willson Peale, studied with American-born painter Benjamin West in London and developed skills in oil portraiture. James and Raphael Peale's distinctive style on light, texture, and surfaces created a visual language that inspired generations of American still life painters. As the American population grew and territory expanded, wealth grew as well, with a rising middle class fueling an increased demand for portraiture art, silver, and household furniture. Patterns and shapes borrowed from ancient Egyptian, Greek, and Roman architecture were familiar to the Philadelphians by the 1820s. Drexel spent 5 years as an itinerant artist in Europe before emigrating to Philadelphia and later built a fortune in banking and founded Drexel University. Birch was the first great American marine painter who depicted scenes that commemorated fleeting moments of triumph. Rembrandt was Charles Willson Peale's most artistic and ambitious son, who painted this portrait of Washington from life at the age of 17, seated beside his father. The museum's European art has more than 22,000 objects ranging chronologically from the Middle Ages to the early 20th century. This pair of candlestands with pâté-sur-pâté in gilded bronze were made by Sèvres porcelain factory in France that used techniques invented back in 1850. The galleries on the second floor showcase many French paintings with a focus on impressionist and post-impressionist collections. The arrangement features inspired groupings of portraits, still life, unconventional nudes, and luminous landscapes. Boudin loved painting harbors and beaches and was so meticulous in his works that Camille Corot called him King of the Skies. This composition with the lion silhouette is believed to be one of Corot's last paintings before he died, and it appears unfinished but signed as complete. The woman in this painting is thought to have taken care of Courbet when he was ill, but critics disapprove of the painting as it did not emphasize enough of her beauty. Rosa Bonheur's sensitivity to canine emotions was captured in the hunting dog's soulful eyes as he waited to be dried off before being freed of constraints. Monet was one of the early practitioners of pastel colors that offer artists a radiant palette and array of textures, and unflinchingly painted depictions of rural life and labors in the farming region of northern France. He painted the golden yellow and browns of the hay with swift, curving strokes in this depiction of the slumbering laborers after mealtime. This spring-like gallery shines the light on some of Monet's variation of trees like the poplars and the bent, both painted along the Epte River in Giverny. Pissarro painted this scene of a small island on the Seine River in several stages over 5 years out of drawings and his memory of the place. Hélène Charigot came to Paris in 1874 to join her mother, met Renoir when she was 20 years old, and later became his wife and had 3 sons with him. Cézanne took Impressionism to new heights with his exploration of colors and light that conveyed substance and solidity of forms, which inspired other artists like Henri Matisse and Pablo Picasso, who called Cézanne the father of us all. This is an unfinished work in progress that Cézanne left behind when he visited Claude Monet in Germany. Hortense Fiquet was a regular model for Cézanne before becoming his mistress, then the mother of his son, and later his wife. Post-impressionists are more expressive in their paintings than impressionists, and painted art that are more relevant to themselves in bold, flat colors and use decorative lines and patterns to heighten their image's imaginative qualities. Toulouse-Lautrec was a regular at this famous Parisian nightclub and depicted his friends there. Gauguin's imaginative art was frequently at odds with his tumultuous life, one filled with bankruptcy, illness, and relationships marked with negligence and exploitation. Van Gogh added each bloom of his sunflower paintings its own personality and worked in a richer texture which Camille Pissarro said looked like people. Cézanne depicted the landscape surrounding the mountain in the southern French region of Provence in more than 70 of his artwork. The model in this composition was named Cocotte, who posed in a twisted seated position as if to acknowledge the viewer's presence in the room. This gallery focuses on the subject of female nudes painted by male artists that follow centuries of artistic tradition of candid voyeurism. Cézanne did not use live models in this large composition that many regarded as his most ambitious work, probably due to the lack of professional models in Aix-en-Provence. The undecipherable activity of the women in the foreground attests to Cézanne's undiminished drive to reinterpret the subject of bathers. This unambiguous setting is familiar yet unsettling, as the bather in a contorted pose seemed unaware of the viewer's presence. Picabia was inspired by a peasant dance when he was in Italy and used vivid colors and swirling motions in simple, hard-edged forms that relates to Degas and Cézanne's paintings of bathers. This gallery displays works that depict everyday activities through silhouettes and shadows to create insightful glimpses of the artists' lives. This almost familiar scene seems to divert from many of Monet's famous water lilies paintings with a riot of color and thickly encrusted paint. Frédéric depicted the 4 seasons through various children activities like the energy for spring, sowing seeds for summer, harvest for fall, and sleep for winter. Friedrich made 5 of these paintings, each named after a style of music said to speak to a language of clear and pure harmony at a Vienna Succession exhibition. This gallery showcases the arts and crafts movement founded by William Morris that began in the late 1800s during the Industrial Revolution. This fireplace was made by Alexandre Bigot for the Castel Berenger apartment house. Guimard was best known for his French Art Nouveau style entrances to the Paris metro stations. This gallery showcases artists that were trained in Europe and displayed high standards of art academy exhibitions in London, Paris, Munich, and Vienna. Large-scale paintings and sculptures with dramatic, historical, and literary subjects were often more successful in capturing the visitor's emotion. Alma Tadema was trained in Antwerp, Belgium, and exhibited this imagined Greek scene composition at the Royal Academy in London in 1885. This winged figure of fame uplifting a dying fighter of mercy made by Bardin Foundry was exhibited at the Paris Salon in 1874. Manet presented this painting at the Paris Salon of 1873 and was well received, possibly due to the resemblance of Dutch drinking scenes of the 1600s. A full-size version of this High Priestess of Apollo was exhibited at the Paris Salon of 1870 and later installed in the central staircase of the Paris Opera. This famous American painting will be returning to the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts on March 9th, as it alternates between the museum and the Academy every 5 years. This gallery showcases work created in the 1800s in response to the society's shift from romanticized culture of the wealthy to the focus on inequality and national identity. This gallery showcases artwork created outside of Paris in the 1900s, long known as the capital of the art world. Norwegian-born Munch painted this during his extended stay in Paris upon receiving a commission of a large-scale decorative work from Axel Heiberg, a Norwegian industrialist. The modern and contemporary collection brings together wide-ranging practices and media to tell a story of global visual culture. Note the similar and yet distinctive style of Picasso and Matisse on the same subject. Matisse filled the composition with the face of his model against a background of uninterrupted color, bringing the composition to psychological intimacy. The model named Laurette appeared in about 50 of Matisse's paintings. Picasso used three-dimensional silhouettes to depict a seated nude woman with triangular lines and a series of slightly angled planes. Cubism was introduced by Pablo Picasso and George Braque in the early 1900s, which emphasized on ambiguous arrangements of independent lines and overlapping planes. Its style of painting encourages the viewer to delve deeper into reality and interpret its representation. This Chagall composition depicts the Russian poet Mazin with the upside-down head that comes from the Yiddish idiom Verdreiterkopf, which means a state of giddiness. Kandinsky and Klee were both students of Franz Stuck at the Munich Academy in Germany, who co-founded the Munich Secession that adopted symbolism. Kandinsky later co-founded the Blue Reiter Group. Kandinsky expressed his paintings through music inspiration, which he saw as a more spiritual type of painting, and titled some of his work in musical terms. Klee used floating linear drawings and a field of rose-colored space to depict a magician and draw his viewers into an imaginary state of fantasy. This is the last of Feininger's 7-year series of an old stone bridge in Weimar, Germany that dematerialized solid forms into shifting line and shadow. This gallery is dedicated to Julian Levy, who first promoted Surrealism in New York in 1932 and called it a dynamic, expansive point of view inspired by dreams, fantasy, and the subconscious. Gorky fled Armenia in 1919 and depicted the origins of life and depths of the human psyche of his native homeland. There are no bananas taped to the wall in this gallery, but there are 295 empty fruit skins sutured together to decay while on view in this exhibition. Geometric abstraction came out of Cubism but focuses on the position and direction of color and lines, the shape and proportion of pictures, and the role of the frame as a boundary between art and environment. Romanian-born Brancusi did not depict his subjects in a normal appearance, but instead captured the essential character and natural properties of the materials he used. He juxtaposed the white negress by representing the term used for black women in France with the white marble with the chignon and pronounced lips. This is Cy Twombly's depiction of heroism and aggression of the last 50 days of the Trojan Wars through abstraction gestures with poetic allusions to classicism. John's art is a field of language, thought, and vision acting on one another and blurs the distinction between reality and illusion, object and surface. This gallery showcases the change in Kelly's work during his formative years in Paris in 1948 and 1954, and in New York thereafter, where he became interested in the use of grit as an underlying structure. Chilean-born Errázuriz uses everyday objects to create one-of-a-kind or limited edition pieces to twist the viewer's typical expectations and experiences to convey imagination and wit. He was the recipient of the 39th Annual Collab Design Excellence Award in 2025. If you enter the museum through the east entrance, you will find yourself in the Great Stair Hall, greeted by one of the best-known sculptures in the country. The sculpture of Diana was originally installed on top of Madison Square Garden in New York in 1893, but after it was torn down in 1925, the museum adopted the sculpture in 1932. There are 12 tapestries on the wall of the Grand Stair balcony that depict the life of Roman Emperor Constantine the Great. 7 of the tapestry were designed in Baroque style by Peter Paul Rubens in 1622 and woven at the Royal Tapestry Manufactory sponsored by King Louis XIII of France. The late medieval gallery showcases artwork, woodwork, and ironwork made in the 1400s and the early 1500s when the Christian Church continued to be a major patron, though some works were made for individuals or private residences. Artists in that period applied complex patterns and architectures to a variety of forms in Gothic style marked by naturalism with emotional impact. At the center of the medieval galleries is a cloister modeled after a 13th century example at the Abbey of Saint-Genis-des-Fontaines in the Roussillon region of southwestern France. It includes sculpture originally from the abbey, contemporary elements from the province, and early 20th century reproduction carvings. This two-panel painting likely served as the exterior decoration of the wings of an altarpiece with Mary's robe connecting the two panels. These are the principal panels of a large altarpiece made for the Efreducci family's chapel in the Church of San Francesco in Fimo, Italy. The paneling in this Gothic room suggests that it may have been a hunting lodge in the Normandy region in northern France. Arts created in the 1400s and the 1500s were centered on telling stories through illustrations of figures, events, and messages in paintings and sculptures, as the majority of the people back then could not read or write. Some of the paintings were from the collection of John G. Johnson, a successful trial lawyer after the Civil War who bequeathed 1,279 artworks to the city of Philadelphia in 1933. The art of heraldry was a way to recognize an armed knight through patterns and colors arranged on the shield. An armor garniture is a complete suit of armor with a set of exchange elements designed to adapt the basic unit to different uses such as tournament or battles. These armor, one for a horse and one for a man, were constructed of steel plates that fit tightly together and were designed to provide protection in battle. Some of these armor on display were made by Abraham Wolfgang Küffner and Anton Pfeffenhauser for the guards of the dukes and princes in Germany and Austria. The Sassanid dynasty in Persia has bright turquoise-colored tiles with alternated palmette and star motifs that are said to have come from the former capital city of Isfahan. These more than 60 carved granite pillars were found in Madurai, India in 1912 in a pile of rubble within the 16th century Krishna temple called Madana Gopala Swami. Recent curatorial research indicates that the majority of the pieces were most likely part of a festival hall called Mandapam, located in front of the main shrine with oversized figures dedicated to Hindu god Vishnu. The Philadelphia Centennial Exposition of 1876, the first official world fairs held in the United States, sparked widespread interest in Asian art and material culture. This bodhisattva is made of wood with traces of painted decoration, with the mural said to be from a Buddhist temple in Weihu near Xinjiang in the Hunan province. Buddhism made its way into China around 100 CE through the Silk Road trade routes, but the teaching of the supreme deities or the promise of eternal bliss was cultivated from the minds of the practitioners to transcend human sufferings and the cycle of birth and rebirth. Go further inside the Asian galleries and you will find a Japanese garden with a Buddhist temple and a ceremonial teahouse. This temple from the Muromachi period once stood in Katagiri village in the Nara prefecture as a subsidiary part of the Great Buddhist Temple of Horyuji. The main altar is called Butsudan. The yellow bundle in the background may look like soft fabric, but it is actually made of matte glazed stoneware made by a female artist based in Kyoto. The name of this tea house reflects the spirit of the traditional Japanese tea ceremony as a temporary refuge from the complexities of daily life. The museum acquired the temple and the tea house in 1928. This 6-fold screen depicts the expansive field of wheat and sunflowers in the city of Edo, which became part of Tokyo in present day. Not all the special exhibitions are included in the general admission ticket, like the Dream World that celebrates the 100th anniversary of Surrealism on the second floor. Most are included, like Ethiopian-born Mehretu, whose artistic vision of architectural grids, calligraphic lines, and geometric patterns together evoke a distorted dreamlike dimension of space and time. These compositions were collaborated with Robin Cost-Lewis in her lyrical poem Intimacy. Another exhibition is this collection that focuses on artworks by women artists and were collected by the Philadelphia couple who built personal relationships with the artists. Leonard had modeled for French impressionists like Renoir and Degas, but her bright colors and sinuous outlines drew inspiration from fathers like Matisse. Trotter studied art at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts with Susan McDowell, the wife of renowned painter Thomas Eakins. This marble figure was commissioned by the parents of Maria Mitchell to honor her sweet and blameless life after she died at the age of 22 in 1898 in Philadelphia. If you're feeling hungry, head down to the first floor where you'll find something from the grill, some pizza, coffee, or dine at the restaurant Stir. Before leaving the museum, stop by the museum stores. There are 2 of them on the first floor, the Museum Design Store and the American Gallery Store. Also, don't forget to head out the east exit and check out the famous bronze statue from the 1982 movie Rocky III. It has been a week since the storm dropped 9 inches of snow on Philadelphia. This 8.5-foot statue is a replica of the original one commissioned by Sylvester Stallone in 1980 that is located next to the bottom of the Rocky Steps. Next time you visit this Philadelphia sculpture, continue on beyond the Rocky Steps to the Great Stairs of the museum and see some of the best art in the world. If you found this video helpful, please click on the like button below or subscribe to our channel.